Elmwood Avenue. Just another forgotten street in the heart of the city. It's a place most people drive by without a second glance, but those who know its history well, they tend to avoid it. You see, Elmwood has a secret that, once uncovered, changes lives forever. Meet Alex, a recent college graduate with a passion for urban exploration. Alex has a YouTube channel where he documents abandoned places, sharing the hidden stories of forgotten locations with his growing number of subscribers. Elmwood Avenue had been on his radar for a while, mainly because of the countless stories and urban legends surrounding it. Tales of people vanishing without a trace, eerie noises at night, and shadows that seem to have a life of their own. Alex decided it was time to check it out. Armed with his camera, flashlight, and a healthy dose of skepticism, he set off for Elmwood Avenue on a crisp autumn evening. The sun was setting, casting long shadows on the empty streets as he walked towards the infamous avenue. As Alex approached Elmwood, the atmosphere seemed to change. The air grew colder, and the once vibrant city sounds faded into an eerie silence. The houses on Elmwood were old, their once proud facades now crumbling and overtaken by nature. The streetlights flickered, casting ghostly glows on the cracked sidewalks. He began filming, narrating his thoughts and observations for his audience. "This place feels different," he said, panning the camera around the deserted street. "There's definitely a strange vibe here." Alex chose the largest, most decrepit house on the block to explore first. The front door creaked loudly as he pushed it open, the sound echoing through the empty halls. The interior was a time capsule, filled with dusty furniture and old photographs, remnants of the lives once lived here. He moved from room to room, documenting everything. As he reached the second floor, he noticed something strange. A door at the end of the hallway, slightly ajar. He could hear a faint whispering, though he couldn't make out the words. His curiosity piqued. Alex approached the door cautiously. Inside the room, Alex found a small, cluttered space with a single, peculiar object at its center. An old, ornate mirror. The whispering grew louder as he neared it. He raised his camera, capturing the strange markings etched into the frame. They were symbols he didn't recognize, and as he looked closer, the whispers seemed to morph into a single, coherent phrase: "Leave while you can." A chill ran down his spine. He backed away from the mirror, deciding it was time to leave. But as he turned to exit, he saw something that made his blood run cold. In the mirror's reflection, a shadowy figure stood behind him. Though when he spun around, the room was empty. Panic set in. Alex raced down the stairs, the house seeming to twist and turn, disorienting him. Every corner he turned, he felt the presence of something or someone just out of sight. His breathing grew ragged and he could hear the whispers again, louder this time, almost deafening. He burst through the front door, the cold night air hitting him like a wave. He didn't stop running until he was far from Elmwood Avenue, the whispers still echoing in his mind. When he finally dared to look back, the street was shrouded in darkness, as if it were a void consuming all light. Alex never posted the footage from that night. He tried to convince himself it was just his imagination, that there was a rational explanation for everything. But the experience haunted him. He couldn't shake the feeling that something from Elmwood had followed him. Weeks later, strange things began happening. Objects in his apartment would move on their own. Shadows seemed to flicker in the corners of his vision, and the whispers returned, now a constant, maddening presence. Desperate for answers, he reached out to local historians and paranormal experts, hoping someone could explain what he had encountered. One historian shared a chilling story. Decades ago, a series of mysterious disappearances plagued Elmwood Avenue. The common thread was an old mirror said to be cursed that drew people into another realm. Those who saw the figure in the mirror were never seen again. Realizing the danger he was in, Alex tried to destroy the mirror, but it was too late. The whispers grew louder, more insistent. One night, as he stared into his own reflection, the shadowy figure appeared once more. This time, it spoke directly to him. "You belong to us now." Alex vanished that night, just like the others. His apartment was found undisturbed, except for one thing: the mirror, now cracked, with his camera lying beside it, still recording. The footage revealed nothing but static and whispers, a haunting reminder of the secrets lurking on Elmwood Avenue. So if you ever find yourself in a forgotten corner of the city, remember Alex's story. Some places are forgotten for a reason, and some secrets are better left undiscovered. This is a story that serves as a reminder to be cautious of what you seek in the shadows. Not all mysteries are meant to be solved, and some doors once opened can never be closed. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, and until next time, keep your eyes open and your lights on. Elmwood was a quiet town with its fair share of urban legends. Some spoke of haunted houses, while others mentioned strange disappearances. However, the most intriguing story surrounded the old factory on the edge of town. This factory, once the heart of Elmwood's economy, had been abandoned for decades. Tonight, our story follows Jake, an urban explorer determined to uncover the truth behind the factory's eerie reputation. Jake was a seasoned explorer with a knack for finding the most hidden and forgotten places. His YouTube channel had a growing number of followers, all eager for his next adventure. He had heard about the factory from a local, who claimed it was not only abandoned but had a dark history. Intrigued by the challenge, Jake decided to investigate. Armed with his camera, flashlight, and a few supplies, Jake set out just before sunset. The factory was a massive structure with broken windows and graffiti-covered walls. It loomed over the surrounding landscape, a dark silhouette against the fading light. As he approached, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. The main gate was locked, but Jake found a hole in the fence large enough to squeeze through. Once inside, he felt a chill in the air. The place was silent, save for the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant call of a bird. He began recording, narrating his every move for his audience. All right, guys, here we are at the old Elmwood factory. This place has a lot of history and, according to some locals, a few dark secrets. Let's see what we can find. He made his way through the overgrown courtyard and towards the main entrance. The door was slightly ajar, creaking loudly as he pushed it open. The interior was even darker than he expected, with only his flashlight cutting through the gloom. Dust particles floated in the air, illuminated by the beam of light. The first room he entered appeared to be an office. Papers were strewn across the floor, and an old desk sat in the corner, covered in cobwebs. He picked up a few documents, scanning them quickly before placing them back down. They were old work orders, dating back to the factory's operational days. As he moved deeper into the building, the atmosphere grew heavier. The long corridors seemed endless, each turn leading to more darkness. He found an old locker room, the metal doors rusted and dented. A faint smell of mold and decay lingered in the air. "This place is like a time capsule," he said, shining his light on the old dusty lockers. "It's like everyone just up and left one day." He continued exploring, finding more evidence of the factory's abrupt abandonment. There were half-finished projects, tools left in mid-use, and personal items scattered about. The further he went, the more unsettling it became. In the main production area, Jake discovered something strange. The massive room was filled with old machinery, now silent and still. He approached a large conveyor belt, noticing something odd. There were old, faded stains on the belt, leading off into the shadows. "Looks like something happened here," he muttered, following the trail. The stains led to a small, closed-off area in the back of the room. The door was heavy and metal, with a rusted padlock hanging loosely. He managed to pry it open, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. "All right, guys, this is getting intense. I'm going to check it out." The stairs creaked under his weight as he carefully made his way down. At the bottom, he found himself in a small, dimly lit basement. The air was damp and cold, sending a shiver down his spine. In the corner of the room, he noticed something peculiar. A small makeshift bed with old blankets and a few personal items. "Someone must have been living down here," he whispered, panning his camera around the room. As he inspected the area, he found more disturbing clues. There were old photographs, some of which showed factory workers. One photo in particular caught his eye. It was a group shot of the workers, all smiling for the camera. But in the background, barely visible, was a shadowy figure. Jake felt a sudden rush of fear. He decided it was time to leave. As he made his way back up the stairs, he heard a faint sound behind him. It was a soft, almost imperceptible whisper. He froze, his heart pounding in his chest. Slowly, he turned around, shining his flashlight into the darkness. "Hello?" he called out, his voice echoing in the small space. There was no response, only the continued whispering. It grew louder, more insistent. Panic set in, and he quickly climbed the stairs, bursting through the door and back into the main room. He didn't stop running until he was outside, the fresh air filling his lungs. He paused to catch his breath, looking back at the factory. It stood silently, its secrets hidden once more. Jake knew he had captured something incredible on camera, but he also knew he would never forget the feeling of being watched, of hearing those whispers in the dark. Back at his apartment, Jake reviewed the footage. The camera had picked up the whispers, but there was no visual evidence of anyone else being there. It was as if the factory itself had a voice, a warning for those who dared to uncover its past. Jake uploaded the video, sharing his experience with his audience. The comments were filled with theories and suggestions, some saying it was just his imagination, others convinced he had encountered something truly dark. One thing was certain: Elmwood Factory was not just another abandoned building. It held a dark history, one that was all too real. And for Jake, it was a reminder that some mysteries are better left unexplored. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, and until next time, keep your eyes open and your lights on. Welcome to another episode of Urban Explorations. Today we dive into the heart of a mystery that has gripped the small town of Haverbrook for decades. Our destination, Carver House, an old mansion on the outskirts of town, abandoned since the 1950s. My name is Jake, and I'll be your guide through this unsettling adventure. Carver House was built in the early 1900s by industrial magnate Thomas Carver. The Carver family was prominent in Haverbrook, known for their wealth and influence. But in 1952, the entire family vanished without a trace. The house was left untouched, with all their belongings still inside, as if they had just stepped out for a moment. Armed with my camera, flashlight, and a few supplies, I arrived at the mansion just before sunset. The house stood ominously at the end of a long, overgrown driveway, its windows dark and uninviting. The front door was slightly ajar, creaking as I pushed it open. Dust and cobwebs covered every surface, and a musty smell filled the air. All right, folks, here we are inside Carver House. This place has been abandoned for over 60 years, and it's said to be haunted. Let's see what we can find. The first room I entered was the grand foyer. An old chandelier hung from the ceiling, its crystals dulled by years of neglect. A grand staircase led to the upper floors, its banister worn smooth by countless hands. I decided to start my exploration on the ground floor. Moving through the house, I found a living room with faded, moth-eaten furniture. Bookshelves lined the walls, filled with dusty tomes. On the coffee table was an old newspaper dated June 15, 1952, the day after the Carvers disappeared. The headline read, "Local family mysteriously vanishes." I picked it up, feeling a chill run down my spine. In the kitchen, I discovered plates and utensils still set on the table, as if the family had been interrupted during a meal. There were old canned goods in the pantry, their labels faded and peeling. Everything seemed frozen in time. Next, I ventured into the study. This room was different. It felt almost alive. The desk was cluttered with papers, and an old typewriter sat in the center. I found a journal belonging to Thomas Carver. Flipping through the pages, I read about his growing paranoia in the months leading up to their disappearance. He wrote of strange noises at night, shadows moving through the halls, and a sense of being watched. "Looks like Mr. Carver was starting to lose his mind," I said, holding the journal up to the camera. I continued my exploration, heading up the grand staircase. The second floor was lined with bedrooms, each one a snapshot of the past. In one room, I found a child's toys scattered across the floor. A teddy bear sat on the bed, its button eyes staring blankly. There's something really eerie about seeing all these personal items just left behind. As I moved through the house, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was not alone. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the wind outside seemed amplified in the silence. In one of the bedrooms, I found an old photograph of the Carver family. They looked happy, standing in front of the house, unaware of the fate that awaited them. The last room I explored was the attic. The door was stiff, and I had to use my shoulder to push it open. The attic was dark, with only my flashlight cutting through the blackness. Old trunks and boxes were piled high, filled with clothes, letters, and other personal effects. "All right, guys, this is the last part of the house. Let's see if we can find anything up here." As I rummaged through the attic, I found more of Thomas Carver's journals. The last entry was dated June 14, 1952, the day before they vanished. It read, "I fear for my family's safety. There is something in this house, something I cannot explain. If we disappear, let it be known that it was not by our own hands." Suddenly, I heard a noise behind me. I turned quickly, shining my flashlight into the darkness. There was nothing there. My heart was pounding, and I decided it was time to leave. As I made my way back down the stairs, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The house seemed to close in around me, the shadows growing longer. I stepped outside into the cool night air, relieved to be out of the oppressive atmosphere of Carver House. Back at my apartment, I reviewed the footage. The camera had captured every creak, every rustle, but there was no visual evidence of anything supernatural. It was as if the house itself was alive, holding on to its secrets. I uploaded the video, sharing my experience with my audience. The comments were filled with theories and suggestions, some saying it was just my imagination, others convinced that the Carvers had been taken by something beyond our understanding. One thing is certain, Carver House is not just another abandoned building. It holds a dark history, one that is all too real. And for me, it was a reminder that some mysteries are better left unexplored. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, and until next time, keep your eyes open and your lights on.